Hello there, and then welcome to Hub Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. Now, in this lesson, we are looking at probability or chance. This is just an introductory video, and look at all the bases of probability. Without much ado, let's quickly go into it. So let's start by defining what probability is. When we say probability, it is a measure of how likely an event is to happen. You see, so you are expecting that something would happen, and you want to put it on a numerical scale. That is what probability does, right? Okay. Now, this scale we are talking about, it expresses it as a number between 0 and then 1. You see? Now, let's talk about the probability scale. It ranges from 0, right? So from 0 to 1. That is if you want it in fraction, right? So it ranges from 0 over here, 0 here, to 1. Or better still, you can say from 0% to 100%. Then in the middle here, we have 0.5 or 50%. So it means the probability of an event can be 0. The probability of an event can also be 1. The probability of an event can also be what? 0.5 or 50%. What do we mean when we say the probability of an event is 0? Now, if an event has a probability of 0, then it means that event is impossible to occur. The event is what? Impossible to occur. For instance, let's say a goat, what's the probability or what's the likelihood that a goat will give birth to a fish? That is not possible, right? So that is an impossible event, something that cannot happen at all. You see, so its probability is 0. Now let's look at 100%. When we say the probability of an event is 100% or is 1, then it means the event is certain, right? So that event is certain. Whether you like it or not, it would happen. There is no doubt about it. What's the probability that you are going to blink your eyes in the next 5 seconds? That is very, very high. You would definitely blink your eye. What is the probability that you blink your eye today? You can never go through the day without blinking your eye. So that is what? Certain. So we have what? With the extremes, we have impossible event, that is 0, and then a certain event, which is what? 100%. Then the midway here, we have what we say an even chance of occurrence. So it has an even chance, right? So when we say an event has an even chance, it means it is likely to occur, and then it is also likely not to occur. That is the in between. If you take a coin and you flip it, what is the chance that you get a head? There are just two faces. So you can get it, and then you can also not get it. And it has an even chance of occurrence, right? So this here is the probability scale. Now let's look at some things we will need to understand as we move along the way. Okay, so let's look at some key probability terms. The first term we'll need to understand as we study probability is what an experiment is. An experiment. So when we talk of an experiment in terms of probability, they will mean an activity with an uncertain result. You see, so you are performing an activity and you don't know the result yet. Then that is what we call what? An experiment. So an example is what? Rolling a die, flipping a coin. These two activities, we'll be using them interchangeably a lot, right? Now, the next thing you need to know is what a trial is. When we talk of a trial, it is just one attempt. of an experiment. When you say one attempt of an experiment, you want to perform an experiment, right? Your attempt, the first attempt. If you do it once, then we say it's a trial. The second one will be the second trial, right? So if you are flipping a coin, the first one you do is a trial, a first trial. The second one becomes what? The second trial. That is what the trial is. Then the next term we really need to know is what a sample space is. If you have decided to study probability, then I'm sure you might have already come across sample space. So the sample space represented by S, right? It is all the possible outcomes of an experiment. All the possible outcome of an experiment. So let's say your experiment you want to do is what? Flipping a coin. You see? So if you want to flip a coin, what are the possible outcomes you will get? If you are flipping a coin, then in that case, you can only get either a head or a tail. So that is what we are going to call our sample space, right? That is our sample space. We'll look at more of it later. So I think with these few things, we'll be looking at more of them as we proceed, right? Hence, we will end this one here. And then as we proceed, more things will come up we'll need to know. Now let's look at the probability formula. So if you want to calculate the probability of an event, you want it numerical measure. So you say the probability of any event at all is given by the number of favorable outcomes. So it's the number of favorable outcomes all over the total possible outcomes, right? And in short, you can say the probability of an event is what? The number of events. And you remember what we said, the total sample, total possible outcomes. That is the sample space. So number of elements in the sample space. When we talk of favorable outcome, what do we mean? A favorable outcome is just an outcome that matches the event. You see, the event you are what? Considering, right? So let's pick some few examples just to explore the probability formula. Okay, so for this first example here, let's quickly take a look at it. It says a die is rolled. What is the probability of getting a 3, right? Then secondly, an even number. And then third, a number greater than 6. So let's look at our solution. Now, before we start, we are talking of a die here. We are talking of what? Rolling of a die. Hence, if it is a die we want to roll, then we need the sample space. You need to know what you are dealing with, right? So you say our sample space. Our sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, because we are rolling a die. You see, this simply means that the number of elements we have in our sample space, that is n of s, others call it the cardinality. So the cardinality is simply the number of what elements in that set. So the cardinality of this set here is what? 6. There are 6 elements in it. So that is 6. Now the event we are talking about, we want to pick a what? A 3. There is it over here, stated in the first question, right? So our event, we say event is what? A 3. And then its set is what? Just 3. Looking at this, then we can say that, okay, then the number of elements in the event, this is our event. The number of elements in the event is just 1, because there's just 1 element over there, right? So with this done, we go back and look at our probability formula. And we said the probability of an event. So the probability of any event at all, that is P of E, is equal to what? The number of what? Elements. The number of elements in the event all over the number of what? Total sample space. You see, and per what we have over here, you can see that we have just one element as the event. So it is 1 all over. How many elements do you have as the sample space? That is taken from here. You see, that is what? 6. Hence, this is our probability. So it is 1 over 6. So we say the probability of getting a 3 is what? 1 over 6. As simple as that. Okay, so with these same things, let's look at how we can also solve the second one. He said the probability of getting an even number. Still, the number of elements we have as our sample space remains what? 6. Now, we are talking of even numbers. You are always making reference to your sample space. So from our sample space, let's look at the number of even numbers we have. We have 2. And remember, even numbers are just the multiples of 2. So we have 2, we have 4, we have 6, and we don't go to 8. Why? Because in our sample space, we are limited by our sample space. What is in the sample space is what we can produce out here. How many elements do we have in this event? Or the cardinalities of this event is what? 3. So you say, hence, the probability of this event, stating the same formula, is the number of what? Event, which over here is 3. So 3 over the number of what elements you have in the sample space, which is what? 6. You can choose to simplify further. We know our 3 over 6 gives us a 1 all over what? 2. You see? And 1 over 2, if you want to express it as percentage, you can say is what? 50%. So you can say that there is a 50% chance that what? You get an even number when you roll the die. Right? Now, the last one says the number or a number greater than 6. What is the probability that we are going to get a number greater than 6? Using the same preamble, we still come and see our sample space is what we have here. Number of elements we have in the sample space is 6. Now, the event from our sample space, how many numbers do we have here that are greater than 6? There's actually none. So it is actually a null set. And the null set has what? Just 0 elements. Hence, the probability is what? 0 over the number of elements you have in a sample space, which is what? 6. And you know 0 over anything is still what? 0. Right? So the probability that you are going to get a number greater than 6 when you roll a die is 0. And that simply means it is what? Impossible. You remember, we said the probability of 0 means it is what? Impossible to occur. Time is fast spent, hence I'll leave an exercise and then you try that on your own. So here we are with some questions you can try on your own. There are 3 and then they are very, very simple. You can try and then let me know in the comment section your answers as well. Here's how beyond numbers where we learn maths the easy way, and I do hope this video will be of great help if you are preparing for a probability test or whatever the case may be. See you in our next video where we'll be looking at independent events.